Okay, can we go?
Yes.
So, welcome. Happy to be here again on an SAP Inside Track in the beautiful Essen. So, my name is Achim Toeper. I'm from Basis Technologies. I have my wonderful colleague Dorina Rehländer with me from the marketing team. We did an interview tomorrow with Juliana from KMD. So, we met in SIT Copenhagen last year. And it's always a pleasure to be at such an event, giving a talk. Today I promise you a deep technical dive into a continuous integration and continuous development pipeline. No, I'm just kidding. I promise that I'll tell you some ingredients of a tasty continuous integration, continuous development or deployment pipeline. So one has to be careful because some say the CD is for continuous delivery, others say that is for continuous deployment. They both are right. And we at Basis Technologies, we have a tool called Active Control that is able to bring CI/CD delivery method and ABAP SAP development into the SAP world. So I don't want to talk too much about that because it shouldn't be no advertising. But I want to talk about the foundation and the most critical points that you have to look at if you want to go that agile way. So it will be a bit about agile development in an SAP world, and we will talk about taste. And if you allow me, then just close your eyes for a minute. So we saw a pipeline of I said cookies, but these are donuts. So please imagine a kitchen where these donuts are built, like on a pipeline. And please imagine the spices that are used to build all these donuts. And please see the picture on the right side. They fall out like small packages ready to be delivered. So that is one image I want to bring into your mind about a donut delivery pipeline. So, going the agile way and the continuous integration, continuous deployment is a word out of the agile world. This means collaboration, and this is a collaboration between a business unit, developers and operators. And if we put those things together, then we have the DevOps. And in DevOps, continuous delivery plays a huge role, a big role. And to enable continuous delivery, you will need to build up a pipeline. And thanks to Paul, I was in your talk, and you talked a bit about a continuous delivery pipeline that SAP plans and the user groups are talking about. They do it a little bit other than in our world. Still, what remains is that many people think that DevOps isn't possible in SAP. And to be honest and to be clear, I think and I'm convinced there is no way without agility even in SAP. So let's do a little deep dive into that topic then and look upon a few things. So DevOps, we have the hashtag DevOps here with developers and operators and the Agile. I say that works in SAP. Let's talk about some examples and let's talk about some advantages that you will get out of it. So with a continuous delivery approach, you will have a higher cycle time. So in cooking, it would be, I like to get a meal, so this is my customer request, and then I want to bring the kitchen, I want to ask the kitchen to bring me that meal, to deliver it. So, and this should be in faster cycle time. So if you go that way, you will have higher cycle times. Then it could simplify the way you deliver software and speed up your SAP implementations. Then smaller packages is one of the things that you will do here because one of the principles is to have an overview and to keep the work in progress transparent and in an amount that is make-able for you. So this is also one key performance indicator that you have in these worlds, that is about the work in progress, or like we always say, the VIP, If you go the Agile way by building up a delivery pipeline, a continuous delivery pipeline, then you have to automate everything. So Paul showed us that ABAP unit tests in a test-driven approach will be used to create the test case first of all. Then you do the software, and in the integration phase, then maybe you will fire those auto unit tests or whatever test it is needed. So even in our software, we have those automatic checks. So we have a shift-left testing approach. I will talk about that later a bit in detail. So shift-left testing means, therefore, put the testing and the quality assurance as far left as possible in the software delivery and software development process. And then automate everything that is periodically needed, meaning integration, quality assurance, bringing into the direction of the production system. So we have customers that use our suites to go fully automatic into the production system. Most of them are stopping. So if you go fully automatic into a deployment, into a production system, that is, let's say, the key task. Most of them are stopping in front of the production system, maybe in a staging system, do some checks if the release is technically ready and if there are all dependencies met. So then that would be more like a continuous delivery than a continuous deployment. But no matter, this should work and needs automation. So Agile is often about bringing a requirement faster over to the finish line. The finish line in that case means the production system. So I brought a picture with me because we are happy to have one of these race cars, GT4 ADSC racing car, sorry.
I'm struggling with the first line of the previous slide.
Okay.
About the higher cycle times.
Okay.
Everything else I understood sounds to me like you want to achieve shorter cycles, meaning lower cycle times or a higher cycle.
That is what I meant. That is what I meant. Faster.
Okay.
Maybe I took the wrong word here, but it goes about.
Then
it goes about not higher in time, even faster. So you're right. You're right to ask. So it is about going faster, over the finish line, and this is an example of a race car. It couldn't go any faster, I think, from the requirement out of the perspective of a customer over the finish line. Then. Okay, let's have a deeper look, because I promised to bring some learning possibilities with me, and so I want to start with the need of speed in innovation. So we talked about SAP Activate. SAP Activate as the implementation method of S/4HANA as a successor of ASAP. This has also agile parts in it. So we are looking at existing processes there. We have some pre-built configurations. We show that to the customer. Then we do some fit gap analysis. I don't want to talk too much about your talk that you have in the afternoon. This is about sparing time and getting more speed into that delivery process. So we even have agile parts there in SAP Activate. Tools and automation, that is very, very much needed. So anything that needs repetitive actions should be automated. If it's development, testing, delivering into production, automated. Then, as I say here, the foundation of DevOps is continuous delivery, and continuous delivery sets on a deployment pipeline. If you want to go more into detail, then you can have a look at the blog post that I named here. If you want to see some differences and learn more about coming from waterfall, going the agile way, ending up in a DevOps world, then you could follow or read the blog from James Roberts, our CTO, who describes the differences in an easy way. So with regards to documentation, with regards to what is the deployment about, what to do with the teams and so on. So you can learn more if you follow these blog posts and look there. So you're invited to look into these blog posts. So let's just again and imagine a meal coming from a customer's order, going into a kitchen, coming out and going then back to the table of the customer. So this is also a kind of pipeline. Let me show you that example on a continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline here. Maybe you have a demand or a request that gets as a user story into that pipeline. Then we can handle the width of that pipeline a little bit. So that is maybe what I talked about when I mentioned the WIP, the work in progress that goes to that pipeline. And in the middle we have these gears and these functionality that do the fully automatic builds, that do maybe the regression test. I named that because I want to go into detail a little bit about regression test. And then testing is needed. And all that is to bring out a little package on the right side. So then the meal is cooked and brought to the table, ready to be eaten. Our goal in 2019 is to bring together our regression test suite that we have, together with our active control, which is the delivery and release building tool. So it comes to a state in your software delivery process where you have to have more than a functional test. Maybe you have you want to do a full regression test, then you have to have a regression test suite in place, whichever you take there and which is appropriate for your needs. And that is just to say that we have several test types, coming from a single unit test, going to a functional integration test, a user acceptance test, and maybe sometimes we need a full regression test also. So this is to be considered here. I think that building packages, building releases is a bit like cooking, and I want to go on in my example with a cooking example. Cooking is teamwork, so even in DevOps we have principles of teams, so the business works together with the developers work together with the operators. This is a picture of Alexander Herrmann, one of the best cooks. I was happy because it was given as a present to me to cook with Alexander Herrmann, and I strongly recommend, if you have the time and the chance to be in Upper Franconia, hopefully it's right, Oberfranken, then in Würzburg there is the restaurant of Alexander Herrmann, and beneath the technique, beneath all the group and the teamwork to build a successful release and enable that Agile and DevOps way. Also the ingredients are very important, and because I told you that I want to talk about the recipe, then let me start with the recipe for DevOps. So I try to take some fruits, and one is a medical plant here. I just saw it this morning that the elderberry is some medical plant. But however, so we need 500 grams trust. We need 100 gram culture. Automation is very well needed. I brought a little assessment with me so that you can self-assess how far you are on the Agile and DevOps journey. We need fast tests and early tests. So I talked about the shift-left testing approach already. So this is on my recipe. Then what we strongly need is lean and measurement. To see if we get even better, so if we have a continuous improvement also in our pipeline. There will be needed some figures and KPIs, so let's talk about that in a while. And sharing and the team is the biggest part of the recipe, so I try to say, okay, there is a big part with the trust to bring those teams together, because there has to be a cultural mind shift even to go that Agile and DevOps way. So trust is needed between the teams, and sharing and team building measurement are also very much needed. Let's look at it in detail. So I used to take a quote from, this is from Dirk Lehmann from SAP. I like very much his posts and his slides. He was one of the SAP employees that talked very early about DevOps, and he says the culture is very much needed. I extended it, so trust is the foundation of DevOps for me. So the developers have to trust in their own coding, but also in the automatic tests. So that is very much needed. The managers have to trust in their teams, and there is no way for micromanagement for the managers in such an environment. So they have to trust the DevOps team that will work, and also the automation and the tools will have to prove that they can trust into their mechanisms, but still the managers need trust in the teams. The teams need trust in quality and stability, and have to build quality and stability. So the overall goal here is to establish trust. So as one part, the D part of my recipe. Then culture first, then the tools. So I often use the CALMS word. So CALMS is an abbreviation which builds the foundation for DevOps. Let me say C is the culture, A the automation, then we have the lean, and we have the M for measurement, and then the S for sharing. So I often use that CALMS principle as a pillar for going in a successful DevOps way. What has also to be done is to tear down silos. So many organizations are very siloed in the moment. So it's like in earlier times. So we have one business unit, I build the software, then I hand it over to test, and then test has to be happy with that and do all the quality checks, and then they hand it over to operations. So this must fail. I'm convinced about that. So you have to put them together into teams that trust each other, and for that you have to tear down silos. That is what has to be done. So the cultural shift and the mind shift is one very much important part of it. We have an E3 contribution. This is only an English headline. It's a German contribution, so if you look for my name, it's here again, and this is also my Twitter handle. So if you want to see some more tweets and some more information, please look at that, because I forget the introduction in the beginning of the talk. Excuse that for a moment. So just here again, culture. It's about mentality. Automation, the integrated tools. Lean, it's lean about planning, but also about budget. So you have no big budgets like in earlier times when it was said, okay, build me a software, I have a $1 million project here, just build whatever you want. No, it's about lean budget also, it's about the lean management and lean principles, even lean user experience and such things. So this is also something that is an important part of that CALMS word. Then the measurement, I mentioned the figures, and the KPIs. We'll talk about the KPIs that we have built in our software suite that are available for you to see if there is a continuous improvement also, and sharing and feedback. So we built into our software sharing and feedback possibilities. So there is always a way for a business unit to give feedback late in development. So even just before it comes to a release deployment, and you should be able to give a feedback and to share what was good in the last sprint and such things. So retrospective could be one word that is also put under the headline of sharing here. So that is that part. Then let's go to some automation thing, and I brought a picture with me. Just a minute, and I'll show also that pictures. So these tools need to be integrated to automate the flow of information and provide complete visibility. So visibility, transparency, limit the width, that is very much needed in that stuff here. We know, and we are convinced about that. DevOps in SAP environments means some different things than in the worlds that you are used to, where maybe you heard about Agile or DevOps. it's a little bit another thing in a Java world that deals with ABAP Git and such things, but we are convinced that it goes into, that it works into an SAP environment. So we are able to enable that DevOps and continuous delivery in SAP systems. We have possibilities to do a release automation, and we care about that we don't break the production system. So that is the most critical part of it. If you go fully with the deployment in the production system and then the production breaks, so then we have some backout functionality to put all those changes out with a mouse click. So that is what is also needed to ensure that the production works and is up and running within minutes than within hours or so.
Achim,
yeah.
When you talk about SAP system, you mean like ECC, ABAP-based?
ECC, S4HANA, CRM stack, everything what has an ABAP stack in our world, everything what could be transported with CTS or CTS Plus.
Okay.
And we have an integration framework there to even control if there is some Java parts out of it, but will be needed to go with a release into production to control and call those Git and GitHub systems and so on. We are thinking about ABAP Git also, but this is not our main focus because we have some tools and methodologies to do it without it. But we are interested in that discussion and be more than happy to be part of that discussion also. Okay, so this is a picture of the web user interface where we allow transparency on a release, where we have our feedback functionalities, where we have some sharing functionalities to see what was my recent activity, what is the news about other teams, to see what other factories, other development factories are doing. We have a following part that is to be able to subscribe on some object. So if you are, as a business unit, are responsible for a pricing engine, you may know if somebody changes your pricing engine. And you don't want to be informed if that goes to production system and causes an error. So you will be able to do some sharing and some subscribing on some items. So this is just a view on what we want to give you transparency and show the work in progress, do some measurement also, and have a reporting in place. So, if you want to do a self-assessment on how far you are on Agile or DevOps way, you could ask a few questions around the Calm's word. So, is a culture of sharing and feedback established in my company? Did I define a DevOps pipeline for continuous delivery, continuous integration? Which value streams are the budgets spent on? So, if we look at a scaled Agile approach that is supported by SAP also, then it's about value streams that will be extended and put some effort in it. So it's not we are making a big project, so it's about which value stream do we want to improve. So that is a new view on it. So that is the question ongoing here. With the lean part, then the measurement, it's about defining your figures that will be important for your company. So I can show you a set of figures that we use and that we have in place and where we do the calculation for, but it's up to you to agree within your teams on the right figures to show if we are improving, if our testing is good enough, if we are fast enough, where we do have hidden factories. And the question for assessing the sharing thing is how do you act upon feedback and retrospective? So you can go into a discussion and even into some stress situation if you don't handle the retrospective right. And then this will be no mindful way. And so my sentence here, maybe because I'm a yoga teacher also, is keep calms but do a mindful DevOps. So just don't disturb the teams by doing the wrong retrospective and the wrong talks after a sprint. So that is my idea for you. Okay, let me talk about bugs. So Larry Smith, I think, was the founder of the shift-left testing approach. He said bugs are cheaper when caught young, so you see the bugs running here. And catching them young means this is the shift-left testing approach, so try to keep the quality as far left as possible in the process. So, because all of you will know that if I detect a bug in the production system, this will make a lot of costs. So, if you get it earlier, then it would be much easier and cheaper. So, automation also is the key capability and the backbone here. If you ensure an early bug detection, then this ensures a better code and product quality overall. So, lean and measurement. So I go back to Toyota, to Taiichi Ono. I hope I spell him right here. All they are doing is looking at the timeline from the moment the customer gives us an order to the point. So even imagine your order that a guest gives you in a restaurant, then the timeline starts. And the timeline ends when we collect the cash. So when the meal is delivered and when the pay process is done. And in between, they are reducing the timeline by reducing the non-value adding wastes. So it's about avoiding waste. So that is on you to find out where waste happens. There is a good blog post. So if you search in the search engine with a big G about the 7 wastes of lean, then you will find them. It's about transporting, it's about motion, it's about taking the wrong people for doing complex stuff. So that is all waste, and you have to find the waste, and you have to keep the waste little and small. Strive for perfection, that is again the continuous improvement thing. And to be able to continuously improve, you may have these KPIs in place. That is our guiding principle. That is the KPIs that our development team has in place. The development velocity, the cycle time. I wrote another word here, requirement to deploy. Rework and waste. This is to find out if there are hidden factories in my company, doing software development, moving it to QAS, then an error is in, back to development and all that around. So with that rework and waste KPI group, you will find that out. To limit the work in progress, you have to have a KPI on it. And if you have manual improvements, then you will have to have a KPI on approval times also. Sharing the S, the last part of my recipe. DevOps is cooking and you are the chef, so this is one of the quotes I took. And Patrick Dubois, I think he's one of the very early people that talked around the ideas of DevOps. He said, without sharing there is no DevOps, so that is why I put 350 grams of sharing in it, or maybe even 500 grams of sharing, so that is very important. And it's also a very important team building measurement, and the most successful cooking teams are well organized. They know each other's strengths and work well under pressure. So just imagine a kitchen where the cook and his teams is, the tone is rough there, but they seem to work well under pressure. So that is what makes a good team here. And this is the last point from my recipe. And if we did everything right, so I talked about a tasty CI/CD pipeline. So my tasty composition goes like that. Follow the recipe, add the ingredients, healthy. I didn't take meat here, but fruit, and then enjoy the tasty composition after all. So recapitulation. So Agile. And I liked that picture. We took a woman here. We had another picture, but it's about. We talked today about Agile, and everybody has another thinking about Agile. But I hope that I could bring you some aspects and show you how we understand that, and maybe it will lead you and motivate you to go a step further and do a little bit learning and recapitulation for all that. And that is my slide I want to end with. So if you want to get started, if you want to get into that direction, so maybe my takeaways for you. If you want to learn more about Lean and Agile ID, please go to the Agile Manifesto. There are 12 sentences there which are very much important to get into the idea of it. Then the other thing, maybe there is a book and a bunch of blogs around the idea of making the turnaround in a big company. So there was a book written, Who Says Elephants Can Dance? So imagine a big elephant, a big company. It was an example of IBM, and he managed the turnaround, and that was not too easy because you have to manage the cultural shift. So that is very important. And I also like Mr. Reitner from BMW, who is an Agile evangelist. So these companies also have Agile evangelists that talk about Agile, bring that ideas into the company. So it's worth having a read at Marcus' blog here. Then there are several practical guidelines in German and English available. That's worth reading. The last link is from help.sap.com. If you have a search window there, if you put I think DevOps in it, then it will lead you to that link. You get the slide, so you can click the link just. It leads you to a kind of learning journey which is with the headline SAP Cloud Platform DevOps Basics. So this is help.sat.com. I was very surprised because when I went there and put DevOps in, there came a whole learning journey there. So that's great work. Thanks to SAP. I don't know who was the author, but many thanks to those people. And if you want to get an impression of how the DevOps and Agile ideas were implemented into a company, so there's a real nice book that I wrote, and I want to give you the information about the book, The Phoenix Project, a novel about IT and DevOps. So it's worth reading. Happy to have had you here. I'm finished with my talk. Time for some questions if you like. Thanks a lot. Questions so far?
Do you contribute in the DSCG workgroup on DevOps?
Not now. So because they have a complete other approach, let's say, and but we are happy to be there and to talk about the ideas and show what we can do there and what our future plans are. So we want to be active part of it. So absolutely. So that would be nice. Other questions?
May I ask how you handle test data management in continuous tests?
Yeah, in our regression test suite, there is the test data management included. So for test data management and for the maintenance of the test cases. In our Agile transportation suite there, we don't care about the test data. So it's up to you to get your test cases into the suite. We find out with analyzers which test cases have to be called. That is what we can do with our analyzers, but to give us the link to the test cases or even the automated test cases with test data, it's up to you to provide that. Yeah. And then Oliver.
How do you see this being utilized together with design thinking?
That is a good question, but the answer is we are a tool vendor, and it's more than a tool. So we have to manage the cultural shift and even the where can I start? I want to go the Agile way, but where can I start? So one thing is to do workshops and take all the positive abilities and methodologies of design thinking to get an idea. Maybe I talked about the KPIs, so to define your KPIs and then to define what is possible now in my company for building a CI/CD pipeline. That is a perfect content for having a design thinking workshop. And even if we talk about sub-activate, so there is two phases that we cannot handle because we are a product vendor. We come in place when you did the first workshops and the initialization of the project. That is when we come, and then we can support the testing and the change management and all that and backlog handling. But the first steps, that is up to a systems integrator or a consulting firm, and there you are the specialist to do that. So that is where we fit perfectly together, I think. That's my guess. Yeah. Oliver?
You talked about cooking and recipes, and you talked about the necessary cultural change.
Yeah.
So have you already found a recipe for achieving a cultural change in a company?
There are several. I experienced several ways of having that. So managers that did micromanagement and that didn't work, and even grassroots initiatives that worked sometimes. So to let one team go with scrumming and these ideas, and then if they are successful, bringing that to the company. So coming from grassroots, I don't think that it's about saying as of tomorrow we are doing the Agile way. I think that doesn't work. But I have no end recipe for that.
You found plenty of anti-patterns, right? Not yet a good recipe.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions so far? Last one or pre-last and last? You were first.
Do you think it fits only for isolated development or also for integrated and enhancement for the customer and also like the customizing stuff and so on?
That functions for both. That has to function for both.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have no 100% picture if you're only looking into the standards or only into the configuration. So you have to put it together. So a build is always development plus the configuration data plus the test data maybe. So this has to work together. There is no way around it and doing the one thing like this and the other thing like this. Then something will go wrong. That is sure for 100%. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
That must go like that. Okay, last question.
So, how much is there a strong relationship between these golden DevOps times and the Agile way and the world that I am living in, which is daily on-premise junk food?
Okay.
So, is there a way to haute cuisine? I mean, is there an example of it? Somebody has already done DevOps in a free ECC environment.
Yeah, there is many examples. So please write me an email, then we can go into detail and talk about that. Yeah, I'll give you my business card, and then we can talk about that. Yeah, maybe this is the best idea. So I can show you some examples because that is not for that event here.
You have the Twitter account.
Huh? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So maybe not a question, but a hint regarding your recommendation to get in detail or in deep dive with the Phoenix project. Phoenix project is also available as Amazon or as Audible ebook audio file, and it also includes some PDF which includes the half of DevOps handbook, and it's a very good eye opener and very good recommendation to get deep dive in the stuff. And in this novel, a story will told to you where you find yourself definitely in one of the roles which are shown there. It's a very good recommendation.
Thank you for that additional information. So thanks for having you here. It was a pleasure. And we're finished.